The sounds of late fall. Late summer. Anyway. I left my pressure washer out, not realizing it. Alright, let's get on it, shall we? So in my last video, we talked a little bit about this engine. We actually, this engine was frozen solid when I got it here. And so what I did to free the engine up is I really didn't have high hopes for this guy. So I just sort of, I think it was stuck right about, you can still see where it was stuck. Here, let me show you what I seem to have lost the footage of me getting the engine unstuck. So this is where it was frozen, right about there. You can see where the rings were. And I just took some WD-40 and I filled the bore up with WD-40. And I took my largest set of channel locks and I kind of worked the engine a little bit at a time back and forth just to get it moving. And then it just freed right up. So, as I stated earlier, this engine, it will probably run. And I got some information from a fellow YouTuber, and I'm going to call him out right here because he sent me so much information. A lot of it was news to me, but most of it was pretty much what I already knew. But where is that message? No, it wasn't that. Well, anyway. I can't seem to find his message. Colin 583. Colin 583. He wrote all this right here. I was aware that the ignition system is behind the flywheel. That was pretty typical of Briggs and Stratton. Obviously the points and condenser are there, but they also mounted, on some older models, they mounted the coil behind the flywheel. And he mentioned that it might use a rare style of coil, and if it's bad, I don't think the coils are bad. I think the real problem here, the reason I'm not getting any ignition, by the way, you might want to watch the previous video. I do discuss a lot of this stuff in the previous video. But the reason it's not getting any ignition right now, because I did test that, is more than likely, I'm thinking, buildup on the points. It gives me the value of the condenser with a multimeter, 0.20 ohms. It says the flywheel is fragile. Yeah, it is a cast aluminum or some kind of an alloy flywheel. We're going to whack it this way. We don't want the fins to break off. Now, what you could do, and I don't want to do this, but we could put something in the bore. I've heard of motorcyclists, when they're pulling their engines apart, they'll put rope. Rope is a common one. And you put that down into the bore, and it can take the impact of the piston coming up. But I'm not going to do that. I'm going to let's just try this. Let's see here. We can kind of, oops. Look at that. Look at that. That was easy. Now the manual says to remove the screws. Am I recording? Oh, thank God. We can use the same tool to remove these screws. These are for so there was a factory pulley, or puller tool, that Briggs and Stratton used on these engines. It actually came with the engine. This was back in the day when they would give you service tools. Flywheel is held in on a taper. Now, I was just going through some stuff I have, and I found this. I found a puller. And it would work if I had bolts that were long enough and fit in here, but I don't, so that's not going to help me out very much. Yeah, but anyway, so what I'm thinking we'll take the engine apart. I want to get it running first. I want to hear it run, see what it sounds like. But you'll notice that this engine is built a little bit differently from your modern day Briggs, any engine made today. And this is unique, I believe, to the Model A, because the Model B had a removable output shaft bearing, and it had a bolt-on plate on this side. I've never worked on one of these before. I've worked on bazillions of small engines in my life, and started when I was 9 years old, and I've always had a preference for Briggs engines, and only because it seems like you can't kill them. They're very easy to work on, and you just can't kill them. But anyway, I digress. We gotta find bolts long enough and with the same thread pattern, and I think the mounting bolts might do the trick. I just realized that. We'd have to clean them off really good. Hold on a second. Freaking yeah, I think I found what I'm looking for. So I must have bought that this puller from Harbor Freight. This is a Harbor Freight puller for sure. I bought this for something, and I forgot I had it. And I'm looking through my toolbox, and I'm like, wait a minute. But will these bolts be long enough? No, they are just not that long, and there's not enough thread on this. Does this tip come off? I think it does. Yeah, no, it doesn't. Yeah, the nose is too long. If I were to cut the nose off, and Lord help me, I think I might. I think we might be able to use this. I really don't want to chop up a perfectly good puller. Oh wait. I think we're saved. Yeah, I think we're going to be okay. We'll be able to get this. We'll be able to get this flywheel off right now in this video. I realized the unit was put together backwards. So, all right. So there's not a lot of thread here. So let's just hope. Let's just hope. Let me grab a socket, and the socket is ready. What the hell did I buy this thing for? It was for something very specific, and I don't remember what it was. But I don't want to be pulling this thing off with no thread. That was easy. Oh, that was too damn easy. All right. It's like the ghost of my dear departed grandfather is watching over me right now. I swear to God, I didn't buy that puller. He put it there. All right. We're in like Flynn. So, let's see if these magnets are any good. I've heard of the magnets actually going bad. Yeah, they're a little weak. Okay, this is what we got. This is the horseshoe that magneto that I was told about, and the gentleman mentioned that it could be bad. There's our condenser, and our points are going to be behind here. So let's take a look under that box. You can tell it's been apart before. I think what he meant was the gap on the points should be 20 thousandths. Again, I found the manual for this engine. It's actually still, believe it or not, it's still on Briggs & Stratton's website. And it's not hard to find. I can't believe it's still there. So let's find us a screwdriver here. I'm going to loosen this up and swing it over. Alright. And then this box cover should come off. And it looks like it's got something gluing it on. Look at this. This is totally Bakelite all the way. Now there's something stamped into this. CMPC2. Now the coil has a stamp of D37. So based on that and the D37 on my flywheel, this is clearly a 1937 Briggs. So I think we've isolated the year of manufacture. Now, in my experience, and I already know what the problem is. Look at that. Corrosion all over that point right there. That's easy to fix. All I got to do is get some emery cloth, clean it up. We'll throw some deoxit on there for good measure, and we should have a functioning ignition system again. I mean, yeah, you know, in the future, maybe we replace the condenser. It looks like we've got an oil leak here, so we'll be doing some engine seals for sure. I'm not really sure how the crank comes out. I bet you this whole front cover comes off. I'm pretty sure that's how it's done. So that's different. They don't make them like that anymore. We could measure the coil, but I'm sure the coil's fine. I believe this was a running engine when it was taken out of service. So let's clean up that mess right there. This right here is Deoxit Gold G5. This is what we're going to use to try to flush out. Let's get the ooh. Well, that's not good. That's not good at all. Are you seeing what I'm not seeing? It looks to me like we got a problem. Flush that shit out. The breakers aren't breaking. There's supposed to be a cam set. There is a cam, like the crankshaft has like a cam milled into it, and what it does, it's supposed to open and close those contacts. It moves a very little bit, not much, not enough to say it's moving. Well, that's very interesting. That's very interesting. Where's my... I guess it doesn't move much on this engine. I just remember them moving more than that. But maybe it's because of all this shit built up in here. And we're going to clean that out. Yeah, like that. We should probably check the gap and all that crap, but we're just having fun. I just want to know if the coil's any good and if it's too weak to do the job, you know. Alright, so we want it in the closed position. That's where we want it. Yeah, there we go. Now we're cooking. Now, as a kid, most of the engines that I worked on, and I talked about this before, they were my neighbor John the Junkman's engines. He worked for the town dump, and he would bring home lawnmowers and chainsaws and weed whackers and all that cool stuff. And I would just, for fun, I would, work on this stuff. Just to learn how engines work. Okay. Oh, now we're getting somewhere. So there was a lot of crap built up in there. Now, these contacts should be closing, and they're so totally not. Now, is it possible that that follower is stuck or sticking? You know what? I think I might be onto something. You know what? I think I am. According to the manual, there should be a 20,000ths of an inch gap when the points are in their open position. So I would say that's about 20,000ths of an inch right there. 17, 22, 24, 23, 22, 21, 20 thousandths. All right, I got a 20 thousandths feeler gauge. And it looks to me like they are too far open. They're closed. And, okay, so that's open. Now, if I close those down a wee bit until that feeler gauge, yeah, see. All right, maybe that's what she needs. All right, okay. That doesn't seem right. I don't know why these would be so far out of adjustment to begin with. Let's try that. Something tells me I think they need to be able to touch. But let's just try it. Okay? Let's just give it a try. What have we got to lose? Okay. Put the starter cup back on. But we're not going to reef down on it. We're just going to, you know, just going to... Okay. We're going to put our spark plug back in. Here's the spark plug. Yeah, I'm pretty sure they need to be able to touch. Correct me if I'm wrong. I'm going to use the exhaust pipe as a grounding point. Okay, we got to get this thing spinning. How are we going to do that? Well, I was using this kite string basically, and we can always give that a hoot and a holler here. I mean, this is janky, but you know what? That's all I got. So give me a break there. There we go. Let's just wrap that around. No, don't lose any bolts. Damn it. I gotta find a cup to put all the parts for this engine into. In the open position? Yeah, because it's not traveling down far enough. There's a possibility that there could be some schmutz built up in the in that little channel that it rides into. So, you know, there could be something preventing the contacts from properly closing up. So, let's just give this a whirl. See what happens. All right, I'm gonna zoom out here. The easiest way to tell will be if I just held on to this wire, and if it sends me across the room, then I'll know. But we'll just try this. Ooh, I felt it. It was a weak spark, but I felt it. Actually, there was a spark there, but it wasn't strong, and that could be a bad condenser. It could be a lot of things. Could be bad connection. I know that this connection is very poor. Because it's just crimped on lackadaisically. That should be soldered in place. I'm going to recrimp that. Let's see how that helps. Oh yeah, there was a spark for sure. Not very strong, but my hand slipped and I touched the wrong point. Here we go. This engine might actually run. No, nothing, not strong enough to cause that plug to light up. So let's try this again. There we go. If I can, there we go. Thread it up by my fingers here. So really, what we need is to just sort of go through this ignition system. But I think once we get the gaps set correctly, we get the points either replaced or we refinish them ourselves. I think I can do that. What I'm going to do is take these points and I'm going to sand them by hand. And but we are going to have to replace that condenser for sure. I don't think I trust it. And it looks like a pretty universal size. Yeah, you look at that. Yeah, these need to be cleaned properly. Let's take a look at that follower. That should pull right out. Yeah, it's kind of sticky. Sludgy. Ew. Now this is made out of fiber. And there's oil in there, but it smells. Oh my god, it smells like old library books. Yuck. So that, yeah, that's a problem too. Yeah, that's kind of gross. So why don't we do this? Well, I'm going to order a condenser and yeah, this is made out of, I believe, phenolic resin. And I've seen this material many times before. It doesn't conduct electricity, and that's why they use it. Yeah, it shouldn't be sticky like that either. It should be able to move freely. Okay. So we're going to continue on our video adventure. And I want to, as I work, I want to talk about some things. I've noticed lately, excuse me, a barrage of negative and just plain rude comments on my channel. I don't know if I'm the only one experiencing this, but the comments are very similar in nature and how they attack me. Now, I know YouTube comments are basically the cesspool of human existence. And you know you're doing something right when everybody wants to cut you down. At least that's how I'm going to interpret it. But man, oh man, oh man. I have been getting a lot of dick comments lately from people. Random people. And I check their channels, right? I go to their channel to see, oh, maybe they have a large contribution or a swath of videos that they've contributed to mankind. And they must be of A1 quality. And to my surprise, or I'm being a little sarcastic here, but to my surprise, most of their channels are completely blank. That's right. People who contribute dick to YouTube, that being nothing at all, are telling me that my videos are not up to par. I don't explain enough, or I explain too much. That's the thing. Either it's too much or not enough. There's no in between. But hey, you know what? I do this for fun. I'm not paying bills with YouTube money. I'm not expecting much out of this channel because I don't put much into it. I gotta be frank. I don't put a lot into it, so I don't expect much out of it. You know what I mean? That's kind of how it works. But anyway. But one of the comments I received, it kind of hit me just the wrong way after a very long and arduous day at work. And I'll share it with you. A YouTuber, he's not a YouTuber. He doesn't really contribute much. Because like I said, most of these people don't really do any videos of their own. They just comment on other people's work because it makes them feel good about themselves. This one little dick. He told me that I should just basically let somebody else work on this engine because I clearly don't know what I'm doing. And I should let Musty One fix this engine for me. Listen, you little puke. I've been fixing engines since I was 9 years old. Figured everything out on my own. My dad did give me some pointers. He was an auto mechanic, a fairly good one too. Still is. I mean, he doesn't actually do much in the mechanic space these days, but he knew his shit. And a lot of people would turn to him for advice, and it was nice of me to. It was a beneficial thing in my life to have a father who was mechanically gifted, I would say, very gifted. Today he is a machinist, and he designs and makes tools. And he does it all with a high school education. Smart man. Not because the paper said he is, but because he just is. Anyway, so this little puke says that I should just bring this engine to Musty One and have him fix it because he knows more than I do. Or how is it worded? It was worded in just the right way to make me just like this big, like that big. And I'm like, I'm bigger than that. I am a 36-year-old man with a long career of I've been in my profession for 15 years. I own a home. I did it all on my own without really any help from anyone, and I think I can take this. I think I can tackle this one. As I said earlier in the video, these engines were built to be serviced by farmers, basically. And any idiot should be able to get one of these running. Musty One, by the way, is an amazing... I watch his videos, and he is incredible. See, Musty One uses a very similar approach to what I do. He doesn't tackle a project like this knowing everything about it. And he doesn't go in his video boasting about how much he knows and all the specs and everything about what he's working on. He kind of just says, "Oh, well, here's an engine. Let's tackle it. Let's see what it'll take to get it running." And he is proficiently knowledgeable in some key areas, specifically air-cooled Volkswagens. He really knows his stuff as it pertains to air-cooled VWs. Great guy. I wish I could meet him in person. I actually probably could. He lives, from what I can tell, he is in, I think he's in Plastow, New Hampshire, which is not that far from here. I digress. So what I want to do is, while we're here, while we've got this whole front of the motor torn off, let's take a look inside. Now, this engine is built quite a bit differently from your typical run-of-the-mill Briggs engine. I've got one sitting right here. We got this guy running last June, I think. This is my tiller. It's a 1981 Briggs motor on there. And I believe that is also a breaker point ignition system, but I did not have to service it. As a matter of fact, the last time I serviced a breaker point ignition, I was still in middle school. It's been a while. And, let's try to get this plate off. Now, it's mounted what appears to be with 4 screws, and it should just pull off, I'm thinking. But I don't want to crack anything. Don't want to break it. This is old-fashioned aluminum, 1930s style. I think she wants to move. So we're going to have to replace every gasket and seal in this engine. Everything has to be replaced. The mall's closing, folks. Everything must go. It might be handy for me to start looking at the manual. But it looks like it moved a little, just a tad. It wants to come off. I'm thinking... Is that a locator pin or is that a rivet? It looks like, yes. It looks like okay, here we go. I think I figured it out. Okay, so it looks to me like the steel plate is actually riveted to this aluminum dude. There it goes. Okay, this is going to give us access to the inside of the engine. Okay, we're going to take a look for the first time as to what the lower end of this motor looks like. Oh, we got to take the flywheel key out. So I'm going to just tappity tap that off right there. How does that look? You got that in focus? We're going to reuse this key, so we don't want to whack the shit out of it. It's going to be a half moon. These, I believe, just they fly right out. There it goes. Now's a good time to take a look at that key to see what kind of condition it's in. I got a good one for you. So I had this lawnmower when I was, how old was I when I got it? I was probably 20. And I bought this used lawnmower. My dad needed a mower for his house where I was living at, or my parents. It was my parents' house, not my dad's. They needed a lawnmower. So I went over to my friend John the Junkman, and I said, what do you got? And he had this 1988 Home Light, aluminum deck. There it goes. Aluminum deck with a Briggs Quantum 3.5 horse engine. The Quantum was like the upgraded engine. It was a slightly better motor, a little more complicated. Had a float carburetor versus a suction carb, or a Pulsajet. And anyway, it had this Briggs Quantum motor on it, and it ran great. And then over time, it just started running kind of funny, like it was backfiring and shit. And what I noticed was the flywheel key, which should look like this. Nice solid block of metal. The flywheel key had an offset in it. I'm like, that's not right. So I put a new key in it, started back up, ran great. After a few mows later, it started to run funny again. I pull the flywheel off, and the flywheel key, once again, is cocked. So what I determined was the taper, and that is the tapered shaft that the flywheel is pressed onto when you bolt it down, was worn out. And the flywheel was only being held captive by the flywheel key. Or the Woodruff key, whatever you want to call it. Anyway, let's take this thing apart. Let's see what we got going on here. Okay, so now we're looking at the engine's gut. And I'm looking at where there should be a seal, and there isn't one. There's nothing there. There's no seal. Oh, there goes my points. That's all going to be replaced anyway. The wire broke. I knew it would. I meant to cut it off, but there is, I believe there's supposed to be some kind of stuffing in here. Leather, cotton, something. And there's nothing in that. I'm going to have to check the manual to see what all that requires. So there's no seal. You know, why would there be, right? Okay, so yeah, this we're gonna put this aside in our. We got a little container full of points. Now let's take a look at the crankshaft and see where that here's the eccentric for our ignition timing. Let's take a look at this. I'll clean this up a little bit. My initial gut reaction was that this could be very, very worn out, which is why we're not getting a. Yeah. Okay. Let's take a look at this. I know that's not the case, but I'm thinking, well, maybe this is worn out. This is what the follower that lifts up the breaker. This is what lifts it up and breaks the ignition contacts, and this is where it connects. This is where it breaks. So a little bit of it. Now, somebody's been here recently as maybe the past 20 years, and you can see they've got a lot of orange slime here. There should be a gasket here, and there is part of a gasket, but it's NFG. Look at that. That, my friends, oh my God. You can never escape this shit. This is asbestos. This is an asbestos gasket. Look at that. You can even it's not even pretending to be anything else. Those are asbestos fibers. That's what this gasket's made of. Oh my God. You can't, I mean, it's not really a danger right now. It's not like dry and friable. Well, it's friable as get up, but it's not really. I'm not concerned. All right, let's take a look at. Oh yes. Okay, let's get a feel as to what's all this noise is all about. Oh yeah. Let me try to manipulate this motor. Okay, so there's our driven off. It looks like the cam. It's off of its own cam lobe. Let me get this. I gotta illuminate this engine somehow. But if you look in the back there, you can see the camshaft, and you can see the lobe that the oil pump runs off of. It's right there in the middle of the camshaft. So our intake cam is on the side facing us. The exhaust is in the back. See it? And yeah, I don't think there's anything going on with this main bearing. I think we're fine there. And see if we can see that oil plunger move up and down. And there it goes. It's moving. Can you see it? Down there and towards the, right there. Let me get a pointing device. There's our oil pump. Right there. Now, modern engines will have a dipper or a dipping mechanism. It's actually bolted usually to the connecting rod, and it's just a piece of metal. And every time the engine cranks over, it splashes oil up and around all over everything. So I don't see anything alarmingly wrong with this engine in terms of, I'm just watching the movement of these parts, and I'm going to get my hands in there. By the way, here's that original green. You can see that a little bit better now. It's a very crudely built motor compared to what we have today, but a very well built one. This motor, you know, it's hard to say how long it would last compared to a modern engine, because the technology for building small engines that pretty much lasted forever, I would say that peaked sometime in the 80s with the IC series engines that Briggs made. Those are their commercial engines, and they were designed for heavy-duty use for long periods of time. But yeah, let's get some. I want to get some oil in that bore to free it up a little more. I think we have. What I think is going on at this point is the rings are still sticky. And we'll only be able to resolve that by pulling the piston out. But let's just get a little bit of 3-in-1 oil there. Just maybe it's a little nicer. Yeah, it's a little bit better. Yeah, that's the clunk I'm hearing. It's the thrust. I think this engine's tight as a drum. But like I said earlier, when I first started pulling this motor apart, I'm like, this thing's got a bit of a knock to it, doesn't it? No, I don't think it does. I think that's totally not the case. But the good thing is, I don't see a lot of surface rust. It's not like the oil hasn't coated everything nicely and prevented flash rusting. Should we check the bearing journals for wear? I mean, I feel a little bit of a groove there, but not enough to make me want to regrind this crank or have it ground. Here's our cam gear in the back. This is all it is, guys. This is it. Very simple. Very simple. And the basic principle of how this motor is put together is no different from a motor made today. The difference is in a motor built nowadays, you see this? All right, let me show you this. This right here is the oil port for the connecting rod bearing. This right here, oil is going to splash into this little cup and lubricate this bearing here. And we should have one on the on each bearing. We're going to have a very similar mechanism for oil distribution. And if we look on the back side of this plate here, you see a very similar, yeah, right here. There's a little cup there that points upward. And that is how the oil gets into the, whoa, look at that. Yeah, this bearing is cooked. Oh my. I just noticed that. This is a brass, or probably oilite bronze. It doesn't look like oilite though, it looks like brass. This is a sleeve bearing that's pounded in there with a press. And it is scored something fierce. By the way, date code is still D37 on this engine. So, in case you were wondering. Yeah, D37 is our date code. Right here, what is that? I don't know what that is. I see what looks like a little valve. That could, oh, wait a minute. I don't know what, is that a magnet? Hold up. What is that? That could be a magnet. Let me take something that's not magnetic. I think it is. I think it is a very weak magnet. This guy right here seems to have some. No, maybe not. So let me tell you what I think that was. What I thought it was at first. I thought it was designed to attract metal particles to itself. What is that? I don't know. Anyway. So the oil flows into here. It just splashes in. It's splash lubrication. Although there is a pressure lubrication component there. Could be related, but I don't see any oil ports here at all. But anyway, so the oil splashes into this cup here, which flows into this port, which then flows around the crank, and then it eventually, I believe, is supposed to get dumped back into the crankcase. Possibly through, see if it's pointed up this way. Yeah, I don't know. It could be through this guy here, actually. Let's see if there's an oil drain back port. Yeah, there is. I see it. I see it. So, this is interesting. So that's not really a seal. What it actually does, oil flows into this little channel here. Instead of flowing out, out through the crank nose, the oil drains into this channel where it's sent back into the crankcase through this port right here. Okay? Are you with me? Yeah. But I don't know what that brass fitting is for. Why it's there, what it does, I don't know. I can look that up and figure it out. Maybe we'll talk about it in our next video. So, what have we learned? Well, okay. This bearing is rough. Really rough. And I'm not sure I can still get that part. I don't think Briggs and Stratton still sells it. No. Yeah, this bearing is it's not trash, but it's trash. If we were putting this engine back in service, we would be replacing that bearing, no question. It is scored pretty badly. Some of you might have a different opinion than I do, but if we were restoring the engine properly, we would have to replace that. As for the crank nose, this bearing surface here, this is what it rides on. You know, I think what we would do is we would clean this up with an emery cloth, polish it, but we'd have to replace that bearing. Absolutely. And the other side, I'm sure, is just as good. So, yeah. Yeah, that's unfortunate. But as you start pulling an engine like this apart, you're going to find stuff you don't want to see. Now, it does have a pressurized lubrication system, and I'm not quite sure how that's going to work. I suspect that what it's doing is it's forcing the oil up. I can't really see the other side. There's our governor, by the way. There's a gear with some flyweights on it. Okay. Come on, focus, you son of a bitch. There you go. That right there, that is the engine's governor. Those are more phenolic resin soaked fiberglass, whatchamacallits. And because there's no plastic in this engine. I think I see. Is that what that is? I can't really tell. But those are, yeah, those are little flyweights that push that. There should be a shaft that connects to this guy right here. And what it's going to do is it's going to pull that in or out like this. If I could get a better look at it. Yeah, you can see where it is. Yeah. So it rides on a little collar that gets moved in and out by the position of, or by the speed of the engine, which pulls those weights out. All right. I'm looking inside. I see it's kind of dirty in there. Not too bad. Yeah, this engine is it's salvageable. It's totally salvageable. I mean, it's got some wear. Now, if my crank bearings look like that, I can only imagine what this guy looks like. But there's no play. There's no play in it. In the big end, nothing really at all. Now, the proper way, by the way, to pull, because we're going to have to pull it apart. We're going to have to do something with that bore. I'm not going to leave it the way it is. It's not going to happen. I'm gonna do the oversized piston, and I'm just gonna end it right there. I'm gonna polish this up, and if I can still get those bearings, those bushings, then we're gonna do that too. I'm gonna have to press those out. I don't have the equipment to do it here. I'm gonna do my. I got all the time in the world to do this, so I'm not gonna go rushing into anything. But we gotta pull the sump off. Now let's take a look inside the sump. Now this engine is 80 years old. I've seen some shit. Let's see how much shit. Let's take a look. We're going to take this pick here, clean it off. I'm going to poke around in the sump and see what's at the bottom of the abyss. A little bit of watery stuff. Oh yeah. There's water in there, guys. Oh yeah. Totally. Indubitably. Doobly-doobly-doo. We gotta drain this out. Yeah. We gotta at least drain it out. Now is a good time. Now is as good as ever to drain that shit out. So let's do it. Let's get after it. As that guy from CNN says, let's get after it. So what we're gonna do is I got a mess here. I gotta clean that up. Drain plugs right here. Okay. Drain plugs right there. I'm gonna get a drain pan. And we're gonna drain it. We're gonna drain it good. Now, let's see what size wrench is that. It's gonna be a 3/8. See if I'm right. Don't make a liar out of me. It's gonna be a 3/8 if there ever was a right size that could possibly be. I have here a 3/8 wrench. Am I right? I'm right. When you're right, you're right. Right? Okay. Let's drain out the watery, sludgy shit. Don't drop that drain plug, man. Okay, it doesn't look watery. It looks like oil. So maybe we're okay. Let's get that camera focused in there. You guys want to see what's coming out of this block, don't you? There we go. Oh, yeah, we don't want to drop it off the bench. Normally you want to have the engine running when you're, not when, but before you change the oil so it flows better. But in this case, we're going to make a little exception. Yeah, there's a little bit of water in there. No question. Oh boy. Let's see how we did. This thing is gross. Gross. I tell you. Yeah, you're starting to see the watery shit come out now. Yeah, I see water. I see France. Oh, now we're down to the sludge. Let's see if I can get a better grip on it. So we took a lot of parts off, so the engine's a little bit lighter now. I also want to get these mounting bolts off before I scream, because they're just in my way. So we'll just put that back on. Tighten it just in case I get the thing running and I put oil back in. Now, am I gonna... I'm a little torn on this. Should I... And I'm not... I'm asking out loud. I'm asking the sky, really, at this point. Because I'm gonna do what I'm gonna do. Should I just get the ignition system fixed up, replace the faulty oil seal, the missing oil seal? No, it's not. It's there. It's just... Well, it's not really doing anything. What am I saying? Yeah. Do I go through all that trouble without changing out and doing the bore job that I want to do and all that? Yeah. Let's get some wrenches. So here's where I'm at right now. And I don't know where I'm going to go with this at this moment in time. But I'm at a crossroads. Do I go ahead? Oh wow, these bolts are trash. Do I go ahead and just clean the engine up and just get it running? Or do I go all nutso and do the piston? And if possible, do the crank bearings. Do I go through all that hassle? Or do I just get it running? And maybe display it? I'm leaning towards the latter at this point. I'm not going to be putting this sucker on a lawnmower. This machine probably came off of an early lawnmower. I'm thinking it might have been on a real style mower, like an REEL reel, not REAL. Like the kind that you find used on golf courses these days. But back in the day, before rotary mowers, you had your reel mowers. That is what you mowed your lawn with. And you'd have to sharpen the blades and do all that. I think that's what this came off of. I could be wrong. I probably am. But judging from these square nuts, they're probably the original mounting bolts for whatever this thing was on. I bet you my grandfather got this from an engine show, possibly Dublin, New Hampshire, because he used to go to that engine show all the time. Every fall, he was there. him and his wife. And they were really big into the... Well, he was into it. She just sort of tagged along. And God bless her for it. God bless her for it. Now, I've been on YouTube for... gosh. I started my channel in 2007 with, interestingly enough, an engine video. It was my grandfather's International Harvester LA engine. And I got that engine running, as a matter of fact, without any prior experience on how to get those engines on their feet again. My grandfather did not live nearby. He lived 2 states away. So I didn't really have him, and you couldn't call him on the phone. You couldn't have a conversation with the guy because, well, he just didn't like talking on the phone. And he was a little bit pig-headed in a way. Like, everything had to be his way. And he assumed I knew nothing about anything. That's just the kind of guy he was. That's not making him a bad person, that's just who he was. And so I'm like, I'm going to have to figure this out on my own. And I did. I figured it out on my own. I got that engine running. It took me about maybe an hour or so of just kind of figuring and tinkering. But I got it going. Set the magneto position. Luckily, I didn't have to deal with a faulty magneto because he had already had it rebuilt. He actually had 2 rebuilt magnetos that he gave you with that engine. And they were both good working units. So I didn't have to deal with the horrors that are magnetos. So you can't, sometimes you can. You can't fit a socket on these square nuts. You can fit, allegedly you could fit, I believe, an 8-pointed socket on one of these. I'm on my metric side. I don't have a socket that'll fit. See what I got over on the big end. Oh, hey, look at that. What was I thinking? I'm such a dumbass. Many of you won't disagree with me on that. Oh, I put the socket on the wrong one. Well, this will be fine. What am I doing? I could have done this with a damn... Oh, yay. Come on, get on there, yo. Let's, there we go. There we go. Now he figures it out. Oh, shit. Get those mounting bolts out. There we are. Get her done. There we go. Ha 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 ha. As he gets the last one out. Alright. Okay. Well, that was fun. So, where do we go from here? Alright. The engine's not a total loss. It's not great. It's not the most healthiest engine in the world. But it'll run. No question about that. I really do want to get this thing bored. I'm really thinking about it. And I'm sure many of you who would agree with me on this. But it's hard to say. You know, it's hard to predict how the audience will react depending on their background and what their project repertoire looks like. My father, who I respect very much, says, well, he hasn't seen the engine in person. He says I should just be able to hone it and put some rings on it and it'll be fine. I mean, yeah, it'll be fine. It'll run. I mean, I guess you know what? Look. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to do just that. We're going to pull the piston out, and we're gonna hone the engine. I don't have a hone in here to use, but I can get one. I'll just get a stone hone. At least we can get a crisscross pattern going in there. We definitely need to grind and lap the valves. That is no question about that. They do need that. So grind and lap the valves. We'll hone the bore. Put some new rings in there. I can still get rings for this engine, and we'll have to set the ring end gap and all that, which I've only done once before, and I think I screwed it up. But that was on a 2-stroke engine. Those are a bit finicky. But yeah, to do that, I've got to let's take a look in the sump. Yeah, I think it's good and drained. There's a little bit of a film of oil down there, but you're gonna get that. God, it's so dark. So dark. Dark down there. Yeah. Check this out. This little plug here, that's where they drilled the hole for the camshaft. Now the camshaft comes out, I believe you have to remove that plug, and there's probably a small shaft that goes into it, goes down in there, and you pull, there's a shaft, we probably pull that out, but that's how the camshaft is held in. There's nothing on the other side, so you can see right here, there's a plug right there, and that's basically probably heat or sweat fit into the block. And how about this counter shaft, the governor? Looks like that probably just sits on a pin. So that's not a plug. That's a steel pin right there. That is a steel pin that gets driven in, and that is what supports the cam. Lower end comes off, and that's how we're going to get our. That's how we're going to get our what's it out of there? Our piston. That's what we're going to do. But that'll be in another video. Sorry, guys. We're going to stretch this. We're going to milk this honey. But before we do, I want to get this tin off before something happens to it. We're going to get that tin off, and hopefully we can get it off in one piece. Screwdriver down in there. There we go. Oh yeah, okay, cool. That's nice. Just came off like that, like a breeze. Off camera, I'm going to put all of these bolts, I'm going to just thread them into the block for now so they don't get lost and they don't get mixed up. Just going to thread these in. Here's the tin. These are going to get soaked in evapor rust, lightly sanded, and then painted. I have decided on a color scheme. It'll be black and green. The block will be green. The tins will be black. The shroud cover, that will be done in green as well. But it'll be black and green. I think that's about what it would have been originally. Yeah, there's a little bit of play in those bearings, but not enough. That's I think it's pretty typical. There's a term for that. Side fumble. Yeah, there's a little bit of wear in those bearings. I'm not that concerned about that. I think we'll be okay. And yeah. Fun. Watch Musty 1. I'm not Musty 1, but yeah. Fun. Go watch Musty 1. So this is a 5-digit engine, by the way. I kind of dated the engine a little bit. Well, we know the date, 1937. And according to the serial number range chart that I found for Briggs and Stratton engines, it's very easy to find on Google. This would be a 5-digit serial number engine, making it an earlier model. After the 6-digit serial numbers came out, they made some design changes, so you have to make sure that when you're buying parts that you get one for the right serial number range. And if you don't have the serial number, you just look for that date code. We found it on several parts, D37, which, if I recall, is December 1937. So it's potentially a 1938 model engine. But nevertheless, you want to make sure that you are ordering parts for the right motor, otherwise you will have a bad time. Of note, the carburetor changed a couple of times in these engines. This is the earlier carburetor, I believe, and then they changed to I believe they went to a suction carburetor, actually, of all things. The shroud, I believe, is different. A lot of various differences in those motors. So keep an eye out for that. And you know what? I'm feeling generous today. Let's see if we can what the hell? Let's just have a little fun here. Let's separate the two halves, shall we? I think I got time. It's almost 1 o'clock. You know, it is getting late. Anyway, that's it for now.